Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. Y'all know I love a good edgelord. Contrary to popular belief, an edgy character isn't an immediate indication that someone is looking to make things real awkward by projecting their lack of parental guidance all over the faces of their fellow players. Besides, people who go and do that usually go on to become RPG horror story YouTubers. Yeah, we all like to dunk on the edgelords because, let's face it, nothing is funnier than watching a character a writer takes way too seriously get exposed as the clown they really are. But I like to think that there's an edgy soul that lives inside of us all. Almost 20 years on, and we're still asking ourselves why they gave the emo hedgehog a gun, but there's also a tiny little part of everyone wondering when they're gonna give it back. Hell, even writers widely considered to be extremely talented like George R.R. Martin indulge in a bit of the edge every once in a while. Don't believe me? Go ahead and Google a character by the name of Gerald Darkstar Dane, and then hit me up. Homie makes Cold Steel the Hedgehog look tame. Like all things that spike your dopamine and clog your arteries, edginess is a drug best consumed in moderation. Otherwise, you may develop unexpected symptoms, such as experiencing violent mood swings at the thought of taking a shower. The story I have for you today stars a player whose group finally is taking a break from the dark and gritty in order to have some fun in a more comedic setting, only for them to realize that half the party decided that now was a good time to go overboard with the black eyeliner. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Enjoy. This week's story comes from Reddit user Lord Eldritch and is titled When the Party is 50% Edgelords. So this story was thankfully a short experience due to the edgelord not being in the campaign for more than 2 sessions. But with the way I write things, this post is gonna end up long anyway. However, I think that it's an interesting one because it involved 2 edgelords both being in the party at the same time. Kinda. So we were running an online short-term 5e game. We are currently between campaigns and had a new player join in our Discord server and show interest in playing with us. We figured a short campaign of about 10 sessions was a perfect way to get acquainted. Things were made pretty clear from the start that this would be a comedy campaign, as our last campaign had a very dramatic and emotional finale, and we wanted to cut loose for a bit. It's also worth noting that this player is new to our group, but not to tabletops or even D&D. They claimed quite a bit of experience under their belts, and based on how they built their character and knew the rules well, I'm inclined to believe them. I mention this only because it seems unbelievable later. There were 5 of us in total. Our DM, who I hadn't seen DM before, but they were a really great player and turned out to be really good, throwing themselves into every character and 100% committing to the terrible but incredibly entertaining character voices. Me playing Skeebles, a goblin cavalier fighter who rode on the back of a blink dog. The blink dog was quite a coward and would occasionally teleport out of danger, leaving the rider behind. My friend playing Oliver was insistent on the pronunciation of Olivier, a high elf wild magic barbarian who believed themselves to be a powerful mage like the rest of their family. Our former DM playing Black Cane, a drow assassin rogue who wore a dark cloak and spent most of their time brooding. We were surprised by this, due to the DM's nature and the comedic setting. We had never seen them play a PC either, so there was some doubt about whether or not this is how they normally played. Still, they had been an excellent DM, so we wanted to see. The new player, on the other hand, we knew nothing about, but they still seemed to have hit the cliché perfectly. They were playing Donek Mors, which is literally Latin for long death. A fallen Aesmar grave cleric who was an initiate in a death cult, sent out to hone their skills before becoming a fully fledged member. I think they played a cleric because we mentioned that a healer would be nice, but I don't think they ever actually did any healing. Despite our trepidation, we were excited to see what the DM turned player and the new player had to offer. Session 1 begins, and we have been hired by a king to commit accounting fraud. That might not sound that interesting, but it was based on a really fun idea. The concept was that dragons were attracted to gold, so accountancy was an important role in any kingdom, making sure that too much gold was never stockpiled in the same place. Our job was to destabilize a kingdom by sneaking gold into their royal vaults, a reverse bank heist, if you will. It was important that we made sure no one knew we did it, or they would remove the gold before the dragon arrived. Therefore, we made a plan to make the heist look like a botched assassination attempt on the queen. On the way there, we talked a little. Olivier and Skeebles became good friends quickly, bonding over stories of great battle that they were both lying through their teeth about and trying to one-up each other. Danek was silent, answering any attempts to talk to her with dismissive grunts or one-word answers. Kane also seemed quiet, but eventually talked. In fact, once we spoke to them, they began to talk way too much. They opened up about their horribly complex and ridiculously tragic backstory almost immediately, and how they only desire to get revenge on a comically long list of enemies. Me and my friend pretty quickly figured out that this was an ironic stereotype and played along, laughing as we did so. A particularly funny sequence was Kane talking about how they drank poison in small amounts to become immune. Olivier and Skeebles both demanded to see this trick, and with edgelord confidence, Kane downed a whole bottle of his own poison. He went the next few hours throwing up and trying not to cry, unsuccessfully. Surprise! He's not a real edgelord. I clickbaited you. Sorry. So everything was good, mostly. New player was still not really interacting, but we figured they were just getting their bearings and weren't yet comfortable with roleplay. Perfectly understandable. I won't get into the details of the heist much, but at some point we had to split up. Half the group would fake the assassination while the other half would deliver the gold below ground. Danek made their first real character decision and firmly insisted on being in the assassination team. Alright, no problem. Skeebles wanted to fight the royal guard and so chose to be in the assassination group. Kane was better at sneaking, and Olivier was convinced that their spells could help them break into the vault, so they went below. Can I just say I love the DM's trope of an edgelord character? I know that DM wrote this character as a joke, but I actually think it highlights one of my favorite ways to play an edgelord and just how funny an edgelord character can be. Think about it for a sec. The guy who covers himself exclusively in black, refuses to talk to anyone up until they decide to trauma dump on everyone, and spends all of his time sitting in the darkest corner of the tavern, probably has a touch of the tism. The poor guy isn't brooding, he's overstimulated. Get him a Capri Sun and a coloring book and he'll be fine. Edgelords, by their very nature, are frickin' weird in the eyes of normal society thanks to their try-hard nature and a lack of desire to conform to social norms. Play up on that! The reason why it's so fun to laugh at edgelords is because they try so hard to be cool that they fail spectacularly. So ask yourself, why is your character trying so hard to convince everyone that they're so hardcore? What void are they trying to fill that they think that acting like an asocial weirdo is the way to go? The problems arise when edgelords start and stop at the "I live in the shadows" thing and decide that being the coolest member of the party is more important than any other player's enjoyment. When making a character, you gotta consider two things. How will this character influence my enjoyment of the game, and how will it influence everyone else's enjoyment of the game? If the answer is negatively, then I really can't think of a reason why you'd want to be playing that character. But then again, the crusty hags who host The View have been negatively affecting the brains of middle-aged women for decades now, so maybe some things are too dumb for an explanation. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is that the problem with edgelords is not their edginess, it's how they use the edginess. Oftentimes, that comically tragic backstory only exists to be used as an excuse to do stuff against the interests of the party, place themselves in the position of a main character, shirk consequences for the actions of their character, or a combination of the three. As a rule of thumb, you never want to put yourself in a position where the rest of the party struggles to understand why they even want to travel with you. In no small part because it breaks immersion, which is a big no-no in RPGs when it can be avoided. Yeah, we all play with Gregory because he's the DM's cousin, but why the f do any of us want anything to do with Blood Reaper after he just stabbed that priest because he needed everyone to know he was an atheist? Most people wouldn't be trying to come up with contrived excuses for why they would be hanging out with Ted Bundy. They'd be like, oh hell no, that's f***ing Ted Bundy. While the other two were sneaking their way in, Skeebles and Denek both had to force their way into the throne room and loudly shout a proclamation for the Queen's head. We get into fighting, and Skeebles focuses on kiting the very strong royal guard around. I wasn't trying to fight them, of course, because we had no chance, but we needed to delay. Denek, on the other hand, had alternative ideas. Rather than helping, she allowed Skeebles to be a distraction as she rushed at the Queen. She used her Path of the Grave to give the Queen vulnerability, and the next turn tried to cast Inflict Wounds on her. However, queens have royal mages who counterspelled it and started battling the cleric. Skeebles was ready to run soon, but wouldn't leave their companion behind. He kept shouting that it was time to go and the plan had failed. Denek was not leaving. In fact, they weren't even fighting the mage. They were focused on trying to kill the Queen exclusively, which led to the mage putting them down quickly. Skeebles ran in to help Denek, but got surrounded by the guard and abandoned by his dog, who ran out of the palace. We were captured. Now, that was dumb, sure, but it wasn't unsalvageable. We were only captured, and the actual gold delivery had worked without detection. Now our companions just needed to rescue us before we were forced to spill all our secrets. Session 2 starts with Denek and Skeebles being placed in a dungeon below the palace. Skeebles' dog finds the others and manages to indicate that something has gone wrong. They use her sense of smell to locate them and sneak back to the palace again, making jokes about security as they go. They locate us, and there's a rescue, which was fun, but I won't go into details. Finally, we're out. Time to go back and report to the king of the opposing nation that it all worked. So we're set to leave the city after a night's rest. That is when Denek disappears. We sleep in an alleyway because taverns seemed like a bad idea. Skeebles is actually quite at home, but Olivier hates it. Kane says it reminds him of life as an orphan after he lost his second family. While our characters slept, Denek sneaks away, us all failing our perception rolls to notice. We awake to the news that the Queen was attacked again by the same assassin. This attempt apparently went even worse, unsurprisingly. This would-be assassin was due to be executed at midday. Now, logically, the group would abandon her. She's clearly a liability, and with upcoming executions, it seems like the Queen wouldn't be bothering to interrogate her. But we didn't want to just abandon our new player, so we were struggling between what we wanted to happen as players and justifying it as characters. As we were discussing this, Denek's player speaks up and gets very angry. She demands to know why we won't save her. We ask why she ran back again, and she says, "Because you could just save me when I fail." We notice she doesn't seem like she regrets her actions and ask if she plans to attack the Queen again if we rescue her. She answers with a yes. We ask her why, in the name of whatever death god she worships, she finds it so important to kill the Queen. She answers with, I shit you not, "Because bringing death is the essence of my life." We go, okay then, we're not gonna save you if you're just gonna get yourself killed intentionally. She says several unfavorable things that I'd rather not repeat, and then promptly leaves the server. Thankfully, we didn't have to find a way to kill her character since it was literally already scheduled. The party attends the execution out of amusement, and we make perhaps too many jokes. A particular favorite of mine is Olivier stating, right after she is decapitated, looks like death was the essence of her death as well. The rest of the campaign was tons of fun, and we're setting up for the next long-term one. However, we have not forgotten about our brave fallen companion. Because bringing death is the essence of my life has become a staple in-joke of ours, and we often use it when we are asked for an explanation on just about anything. Let us all pour one out for the terrifying acolyte of death, with a total inability to read the room and understand that we were making fun of edgelords like her. End of story. See, this is exactly what I was talking about. When dealing with edgelords who just want to do shocking shit for the sake of it, the party not only needs to justify why they would want to hang out with you, but also a reason for saving you from the consequences of your actions. The main issue here is not that Denek was edgy. It's the fact that the player thought the rest of the party existed solely to accommodate her edginess and the consequences thereof. Like, imagine getting robbed by the guy who just got done pushing your grandma down the stairs, and then needing to come up with a logical explanation why you'd want to plan his jailbreak. That would be f***ing stupid. This is the situation that you put every other person at the table in when trying to be cool is your main priority during character creation. Edgy characters require more than just a bit of self-awareness and willingness to turn down the edge from time to time. The game isn't about you, it's not about Shadowblade. It's about hanging out with all your nerdy friends and laughing at yourselves for like 4 to 5 hours. But it's also about sending the cartoon dragon fan art. That's right, how about we take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake? This week's fan art comes from viewer Tortoise Not Turtle, who has submitted a follow-up to his Mecha Drake artwork on screen now. Here we see Drakezilla and Mecha Drake forced to team up against their most formidable foe, Space Larry. Not gonna lie, I don't think this would be out of place in one of those bougie art galleries, and you know what, that's where all art of me belongs anyway. This piece in particular, I'd say it's worth at least a few million. See folks, this painting is a representation of money laundering. I mean the struggles of the working class. The poor, and incredibly attractive, are forced to toil in the flames of capitalism while the gluttonous elite watch from their crystal palace. In the spirit of resisting oppression, we will accept $50 million for this piece. You know, that kinda just looks like some guy painted you as Godzilla and Mechagodzilla and then made your kobold friend into Space Godzilla. Larry, go teach that guy a lesson in art history. I'm on it. Thank you again, Tortoise Not Turtle, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and send in your fan art. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.